All right, good morning, guys. So this is our 5th video in the series. The first one really doesn't count, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This video is going to go over altcoins, alternative coins, anything outside of Bitcoin. So you have Bitcoin, everyone knows about. That's what everyone talks about. That's the one always in the news. We are going to talk about altcoins, and once again, anything that is not Bitcoin. So long term, I am bearish on Bitcoin. I'm bearish on Bitcoin, but I am super bullish on altcoins, anything but Bitcoin. And in this video, it's going to be a two-part series. I'm going to state my case as to why I do believe that Bitcoin will start dying over the next few years, and altcoins will rise at a rate that's going to blow people's minds. It's going to melt people's faces. So let's get into it. Actually, before we do get into it, I want to bring something up real quick. 79 members so far. It's been open like a week. That's absolutely incredible. I post all the time on here, guys. Like, if you go to the discussion page, I'm constantly posting, giving new information all the time. However, my engagement rate is actually really low. What that means is that Facebook's not actually showing you guys the information. This market changes all the time, lots and lots of volatility. So if you want to make sure that you are getting all the latest information as I'm posting it, you need to go here, go on manage notifications, and make sure all posts are clicked, and then save it. That's the way that you will actually get notified whenever I do post something, some sort of update. This market changes a lot. You don't want to be getting late information. So make sure to do that as soon as possible. All right, so back to what this video is about. Altcoins. So before we talk about altcoins, let's go ahead and bring up Bitcoin. Now, I'm assuming, because that's how guides are supposed to work, you've watched this video right here. What is a cryptocurrency? So once you have watched this video, now you understand what Bitcoin is and how it operates. This video did give you some information as to the limitations of Bitcoin. These limitations are massive. I cannot stress how huge they are to you guys. So we're going to go one by one and really break down the problems with Bitcoin and why I do believe that although Bitcoin was a fantastic and absolutely incredible revolutionary item, its time is limited. Think of it like the first steam engine. It was an incredible thing at the time, but they were able to turn that steam engine into a more better stuff that is able to really revolutionize the world. Think of Bitcoin as like the Model T. Great for its time, but of course over time we developed our vehicles into something that can actually go more than 10 miles an hour and have to be turn cranked and all that other great stuff, right? So Bitcoin's great, but it's outdated, and whatever's going to replace it is going to be incredible. Okay, so let's go into my case as to why I'm saying so. These are the fundamental problems with Bitcoin. These are fundamental things. And the problem with these fundamental things is that it's really hard to change the coding to make it to where these things are adjusted. Because in order to change the coding of Bitcoin itself, you have to get what's called a network consensus. That means all the people that are involved with the project all agree on something, and they all implement an update to it. Well, that's really hard to do because people don't always agree on everything. And since they don't agree on everything, instead of trying to change Bitcoin and fix it fundamentally, what people are doing is creating different things that do solve these problems. So instead of keep trying to fix Bitcoin, a lot of people have went out there and created different coins that fix all these issues, and they're trading them like they would normally for Bitcoin. So let's go one by one of what each one of these means. Number one is number of transactions per block. In the previous video, it goes over the transactions per block. If you have not watched this video, you're going to become very confused very quickly. So you need to watch that video first. So number of transactions per block, this is essentially the throughput of how many transactions can happen over a course of time. Let's see how I have it set up here. Yes, this is it. So transactions per block. This is how many transactions can happen over the course of time. Now, if you're looking at a cryptocurrency, the ultimate goal of cryptocurrency is to essentially replace the current fiat system. Like they were bringing up in the previous one, Visa, right? Think of Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrency as a Visa card. Now, Visa handles about 24,000 transactions a second. Okay, 24,000 transactions a second. Bitcoin can, in its current state, unless some massive fundamental changes happen, is only able to handle about 7 transactions per second. 7 transactions per second, right? That's incredibly low. So 24,000 transactions per second is what the standard needs to be in order to handle an equivalent throughput as Visa, and we're currently handling only 7. Massive issue, right? So there are a ton of other ones who are able to handle so. And actually, before we get into that, let's look at the other one. Transaction time is the next one. How long does it take to actually confirm a transaction? Well, think of a scenario where you're going to a store and you go to the store to buy a coffee. For the transaction time, once you plug your credit card in, how long does it take for that transaction to be confirmed? Well, if you use a Visa, it's pretty damn quick, right? Within 2 or 3 seconds, it goes ahead and confirms that transaction. Now, in the current state of Bitcoin, if you were to do this, your transaction times would be, let's find it real quick. Your transaction times would be around, oh, here we go. Your transaction time takes between 1 minute to 60 minutes or even a day or two. So, think about how completely irrational this is. Your transaction time could take a minute to 60 minutes or even a day or two, okay? So you could be sitting there waiting to pay for your coffee for a minute, 60 minutes, a day, or 2 days even, just sitting there waiting for them to finally be able to process your transaction. That is incredibly asinine, okay? It doesn't make sense. And the more people who utilize Bitcoin, the longer this transaction time is going to take. This goes to show how scalability is a massive issue with Bitcoin. All right. So now that you know this is what the transaction time and the throughput and all that is, you're asking, okay, well, how do you fix it? Well, it's incredibly hard to do so, right? So instead, there are a lot of people who actually have already made coins that do fix it. Like, for instance, Ripple can handle 1,500 transactions per second and has a transaction time of only 4 seconds. The other cool thing about Ripple is that, or XRP, right? XRP is the actual coin itself. Ripple is the company that makes it. Ripple actually owns the coding for XRP. So if they want to go in there and modify the coding, they can do it all themselves. A lot of people don't like the fact that they can do so, but regardless though, they can come in here and increase the transaction times or the throughput at their own will. So right now, this is feasible for what their current throughput is, so they're going to go ahead and keep it there, but they can adjust it. All right, other ones, EOS, you can see only 1.5 seconds to do a transaction, and they can handle 4,000 transactions per second total. That's much more reasonable. You have Neo, 15 seconds, which is a little longer, but not too bad, and they can handle 10,000 transactions per second, about half of what Visa does. Then one of my personal favorites you have over here, Adam was brought up by one of our people in here. So Cosmos has a really good one. Hedera Hashgraph, HBAR. HBAR can handle 10,000 transactions per second and has a transaction time of 3 to 5 seconds for a transaction. Those are all reasonable. So even though Bitcoin has not solved these problems, things like Hashgraph or Solana, which has held up really well in this most recent dump, right? These ones are holding up very well because they're fundamentally very strong. Yeah, so just to give you an idea, these things have been fixed on other coins, but they have not been on Bitcoin. Now let's see what else, the other issues I have on here. Transaction cost. How much does it take? How much does it cost to do a transaction? Right now, this is all public information. Right now, if you were to do a transaction on Bitcoin, it would cost you $50.21 to do a transaction. Okay. That means you go in there and pay for your coffee is going to be $5. However, the transaction cost that they're going to have to charge you is going to be $50. So that $5 coffee is going to actually cost you $5 or $55.21. All right, so once again, entirely unreasonable. And these are things that with the current coding of Bitcoin is limited to. Unless you have that network consensus, these items will not change because the actual fundamental coding of Bitcoin has to be adjusted. This is an issue. So XRP, for instance, look at what the transaction cost is for XRP. Once again, the speed per transaction, 3.3 seconds. Scalability is 1,500 transactions per second, which again can be adjusted by Ripple itself. And the cost, it costs 0.0004 cents per transaction. That is much more reasonable. What, 1/20th of a penny to do a transaction? That is reasonable. And you can see the comparison. And this is an outdated chart. You can see it's 2017 because the price of the coins have went up, because of the demand of the coins have went up. These costs have increased. However, still XRP is well below 1 cent per transaction, which is much more reasonable. And there are plenty of other coins out there who also have solved this issue. But just understand that Bitcoin absolutely has not. And unless we get that network consensus, it will not be changed. All right. Now, the last issue I have on here is electricity usage. Have you ever heard people talk about how much electricity that Bitcoin uses? Once again, you go back to the previous video, you understand why. Because in order to have that proof of work, they have to use a shit ton of processing power to have all this processing power to confirm these transactions. That takes a ton of electricity for a relatively small amount of things being done. Okay, and that electricity is absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. If you try to buy any sort of graphics or any sort of computer parts recently, you know how incredibly expensive all these things are. Why? Because everyone's taken those processors and putting them towards crypto mining. And so it increases the actual cost of the hardware itself, and the electricity itself is just so astronomical. Just to give you an idea of how much electricity is being utilized per year, the amount of electricity that it's using is comparable to the entire country of Kazakhstan right now. Okay, just for a single transaction. Okay, 1 cup of coffee is the equivalent power consumption of an average U.S. householder over 33 days. So to buy that cup of coffee is the equivalent amount of energy being used for an average person over the course of 33 days. Like it's just insane, guys. It's absolutely not sustainable. If you go over here, you can see the energy consumption relative to several countries. So 100%, I don't know what date is this. I don't know what day these are. I'm sure it's probably outdated to a certain extent. But still, this information is just insane to me. And you have to fully grasp how much electricity is actually being utilized. Even if we are to get to a fully sustainable portion where we do have nuclear and fusion power and all that, we're still heavily reliant upon the power grids provided by the government. And that means that they now have control over those coins, because if they shut down the power, they no longer utilize, or they're no longer able to be utilized, right? So government still has control because they still provide electricity for these coins themselves. So yeah, and like I was saying, these things cannot change unless Bitcoin's fundamental coding is changed, and that once again provides network consensus. So all 4 of these items are huge, are absolutely massive, and they can't just be fixed overnight. There are a lot of coins, and the type of work, or the type of proving mechanism that they used in the previous video and for Bitcoin and several other coins is called proof of work. And they went over that in the previous video, so I'm not going to retouch on that. But there is a new type of style that's called proof of stake, and that is able to decrease electricity consumption massively. And there are many, many new altcoins that actually utilize that, and they're still trying to compete on which ones are going to win out. Okay, and we really don't know yet, but just understand that all 4 of these very massively fundamental issues with Bitcoin have been solved in other projects. Okay, so these challenges right here are fundamental. They realistically cannot be changed very easily. It would require a lot to do so. So because these fundamental issues exist, we are having a lot of kickback from institutional investors on actually investing in Bitcoin because they know these problems exist and this is not something that will easily be solved. So before they're able to jump in, they want to see something that is taking dominance in the market and that has solved these problems. So like right now, we have over $1 trillion in Bitcoin, the market cap of Bitcoin, with a fundamentally flawed project. It's fundamentally flawed, and we've proven that right here. $1 trillion. So now imagine the amount of money that'd be willing to enter this market if we actually had a project that solved all four of these. Okay, the potential is limitless. It really is. Whenever Tesla came out and announced that they were going to put 1%, just 1% of their treasury, 1% of their treasury into Bitcoin, the price instantaneously jumped 10%. The price of Bitcoin jumped 10% by 1% of Tesla throwing their treasury at it. Insane, okay? Now imagine if something like Amazon decided to have 50% of their holdings as crypto. So just try to fully grasp how much money that is and how much potential some of these projects have. All these hedge funds, all these institutional investors that have billions and billions of dollars sitting on the sidelines waiting for something else to come up. These are the market cap and potential is absolutely massive, okay? So that's why I am long-term bearish on Bitcoin, but I am long-term bullish as hell on other projects because other projects have solved this problem and Bitcoin has not. And unless they do solve these problems and make a coin that fundamentally fixes all these issues, I will remain as long-term bearish on Bitcoin and long-term bullish on altcoins. And whichever altcoin comes out and dominates the space and fixes these problems and becomes that driving force, that one will have gains that will surpass anything that we have seen up until now. So now the question is, which one is going to win? Which altcoin is going to come out and dominate the market? It's a really great question, right? And that is what I'm going to discuss in the next video. So I will see you there.